Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we are going to be talking about it's called the Bhumi Gita. We're on the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 3. 12th canto, chapter number 3. And this is full of predictions for the Kali Yuga, the time that we live in. 5,000 years ago, great sage Shukdev Goswami was speaking to the King Parikshit, who had been cursed to die. And Parikshit was to die in 7 days as per the curse. Shukdev was enlightening him by speaking to him about the Srimad Bhagavatam. This speaking went on day and night. Now we're coming to the end of that conversation between the great sage and the king. And at this point, Sukadev is foreseeing the future that is about to happen over the next ages, not just today's time, but going further as well. How will this particular time unfold? This time that we live in is called Kali Yuga. We're going to talk about this and you'll understand it better. So we begin with the Bhagavatam. Shukdev Goswami says to the king, seeing the kings of this earth busy trying to conquer her, the earth herself laughed. So the earth is known as Bhumi. Bhumi, seeing the earth, the kings of this earth trying to conquer her, she laughed. Think about this now. The earth is personified in the Vedas as Bhumi. And when she's observing the people on this earth who are trying to capture different segments and say, this is my country, and this is my country, and this is my land, and this is my land, she's laughing. So Bhumi said, just see how these kings who are actually playthings in the hands of death are desiring to conquer me. Imagine, look at it from the perspective of the earth. When people try to capture parts of her and say, this is mine, like you say, even for us, we say, this is my home. But actually we are all, not just the kings of that time, but we are all playthings in the hands of death. And we're trying to capture portions of this earth, and we are trying to claim so many things as ours that in fact can never be ours. We are here for a short while, then we die, and then we leave it all behind. Bhumi continued, great rulers of men, even those who are learned, meet frustration and failure because of material lust. Driven by lust, these kings place great hope and faith in the dead lump of flesh called the body, even though the material frame is as fleeting as bubbles of foam on the water. Let's unpack this. It's so rich with meaning. So he says, even great rulers, great emperors and kings, and even those who are learned, meet with frustration and failure because of material lust. Now here, material lust is not just sexuality, it is about desire. Kama. Kama is the desire to enjoy. So that lust is the desire to enjoy. We all want to enjoy, whether that's going on a vacation or a holiday, whether it's having nice food, whether it's wearing wonderful clothes. We want to enjoy. And that material lust drives us. She says, driven by lust, these kings place great hope and faith in what? In this dead lump of flesh. Why is she calling it a dead lump of flesh called the body? Because in fact, the body is only alive due to the presence of the soul. Otherwise, it has no life. The moment the soul leaves the body, the body drops dead. Just as the clothes I wear, the moment I take them off, they just collapse to the ground or wherever I put them. They have no life of their own. They are in fact inert and dead. And so it is with the body. So it is with, let's say, an electrical appliance. The moment, as long as it has electricity flowing through it, it works. The moment the electricity stops, Your refrigerator stops, your air conditioner stops, whatever it is that you're using, your lights, they stop and they become useless. If there was no more electricity, it would be completely useless, right? So the same with this body. Therefore, she's looking at the whole situation with such amazement that people identify with the body. They think this is who I am, not realizing that this material frame, as she calls it, is fleeting as bubbles of foam on water. Then she continues, kings and politicians imagine, first I will conquer my senses and mind. Not in today's time. That was an ancient time when they would first want to conquer their senses and mind. Even great rulers like Ravan, who were Rakshasas and who were Suras and who were demoniac in nature, they mastered and conquered their senses and mind, because it was understood that one who has conquered their senses and their mind is the most powerful person of all. But that knowledge has been lost in today's time, and you don't come across that whether amongst the rulers and politicians, or whether it's amongst the administrators or the business people. No, this knowledge has been completely forgotten, that we need to conquer our senses and mind. But anyway, she's talking of that time. Kings and politicians imagine, first I will conquer my senses and mind, then I will subdue my chief ministers and rid myself of the thorn pricks of my advisors. So that, like thorns that can prick you and poke you. So your advisors, get rid of them, right? Subdue them, sorry. And then I'll subdue my citizens, and then I'll subdue my friends and relatives, as well as the keepers of my elephants. In this way, I will gradually conquer the entire earth. Because the hearts of these leaders are bound by great expectations, they fail to see that death is waiting nearby. This is true for everybody. Death is waiting nearby. In the purport, it is written, to satisfy their greed for power, determined politicians, dictators, and military leaders undergo severe austerities and sacrifice with much self-discipline. Then they lead their great nations in a struggle to control the sea, land, air, and space. Although the politicians and their followers will soon be dead, since birth and death are all inevitable in this world, they persist in frantic struggle for ephemeral glory. Ephemeral is such a beautiful word. It means something that is passing, temporary, just fleeting. Ephemeral. It's like a whiff of smoke. It comes and then it's gone. Then she says, after conquering all the land on my surface, these proud kings forcibly enter the ocean to conquer the sea itself. What is the use of their self-control, which is aimed at political exploitation? The actual goal of self-control is spiritual liberation. So the whole point of doing difficult things, of austerity, the whole point of spiritual practice, the whole point of being of righteousness or anything else you might practice is spiritual liberation. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? These are the four pillars of the Purusharthas. And that is designed for all humanity to practice the principles of dharma, or religion as some would call it, but it's not quite. Artha, to then make money, to kama, to enjoy that wealth, and then finally moksha, to seek liberation. So she says the actual goal of life is spiritual liberation, but they do not realize this. Then she continues, although in the past great men and their descendants have left me, departing from the world in the same helpless way they came into it, even today, foolish men are trying to conquer me. For the sake of conquering me, materialistic persons fight one another. Fathers oppose their sons and brothers fight one another because their hearts are bound to possessing material power. Political leaders challenge one another. All this land is mine. It's not yours, you fool. Thus they attack one another and die. We see this happening today all over the place. We see it happening with different countries. In all parts of the world, there is something or other going on where somebody is attacking someone and someone is at war with someone. And this nightmare situation goes on, the average person only wants peace. They only want that everything works nicely, that they can live a life with their family and kids. But the ambitious politicians, they have no limit to their greed and to their lust and to their desire for all kinds of grandiosity. In the purport is written, this verse describes with brilliant clarity the mundane political mentality that provokes innumerable conflicts in the world. The fact is that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all land. Supreme Lord, God, is the proprietor, the owner of all land. Of course, even in a God-conscious world, political boundaries exist. But in such a God-conscious atmosphere, political tensions are greatly eased, and people of all lands welcome each other and respect each other's right to live in peace. Then Bhumi starts giving the examples of kings like Prithu, Pururava, Bharat, Mandhata, Sagar, Ram, Khatvanga, Yayati, Shantanu, Bhagirat, Nriga, Hiranyakashipu. Now in this list you'll see she's mentioning Ravan, Hiranyaksha, Taraka. Some of them are godly kings, and some of them are asuras, ungodly kings. So she says, all of these kings who possessed great powers of control over others, who made the whole world lament, were all full of knowledge, heroic, all conquering and unconquerable. Nevertheless, although they lived their lives intensely trying to possess me, these kings were subject to the passage of time, which reduced them all to mere historical accounts. None of them could permanently establish their rule. This is a great message in today's time when we see our rulers behaving like despots and trying to conquer lands and trying to fight with other people and wage wars, but none of them can permanently establish their rule. Everything will keep changing and keep changing again. In the purport it says, a saintly king like Prithu Maharaj, however, controls the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas a demoniac person such as Hiranyakashipu or Ravan tries to exploit the earth for his own personal sense gratification. Nevertheless, both saintly kings and asuric rulers or demonic persons must leave the earth. In this way, their political supremacy is ultimately neutralized by the force of time. So time is more powerful than the greatest of leaders. Therefore Krishna says, time I am destroyer of worlds. Destroyer of worlds. What to say of rulers and what to say of businesses and what to say of properties. He is the destroyer of worlds, and yet he is the creator of worlds. He who creates has the power to destroy. So he is constantly creating and destroying, and that's the cycle. The purport continues, modern political leaders cannot even temporarily control the entire earth, nor are their opulences and intelligence unlimited. Possessing hopelessly fragmented power, enjoying a minuscule lifespan, and lacking deep existential intelligence, modern leaders inevitably are symbols of frustration and misdirected ambition. Now, Shukdev Goswami continues and he says, O mighty Parikshit, I have related to you the narrations of all these great kings who spread their fame throughout the world and then departed. My real purpose was to teach transcendental knowledge and renunciation. So he's been talking about various great kings and various even demonic rulers like Hiranyakashipu and Ravan and so on. So he has talked about both these, but he says, my real purpose was to teach transcendental knowledge and renunciation. Stories of kings lend power and opulence to those narrations, but do not in themselves constitute the ultimate aspect of knowledge. In the purport, is written, since all the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam bring the reader to the perfection of transcendental knowledge, they all give supreme spiritual lessons, though apparently dealing with kings or other mundane subject matter. In relation with Krishna, all ordinary topics become transcendental narrations with the power to bring the reader to the perfection of life. So that's what Shukdev has been doing, has been using these different stories and different analogies of different personalities over time, and through them bringing the greatest of wisdom to us. Because for us, it helps to have a story. For us, it helps to have someone's biography or life story or something that our mind can latch onto. So he's not just presenting pure philosophy, which is very hard for us to sit and hear, especially if, like in the case of Parikshit, who's going to be listening for 7 days and nights. So Shukadev continues, the person who desires pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. So pure devotional service means pure bhakti, love of God. The person who desires that towards God should hear the narrations of Uttama Shloka, he who is glorified with the most beautiful poetic verses. That person is Sri Krishna. You should hear the narrations of Krishna's glorious qualities, the constant chanting of which destroys everything that is inauspicious. What is inauspicious? Undesirable. You would say something that is not good or something that is bad. You don't want bad things to happen to you. So that's inauspicious things to happen, right? Getting sick, getting in an accident, these are all inauspicious things. What he's saying here is that by hearing the narrations of Krishna's glorious qualities, by constantly chanting them, repeating them, speaking of them, this hearing and chanting destroys everything inauspicious. The devotee should engage in such listening in regular daily assemblies and should continue his hearing throughout the day. Today we hear things on the news, we hear things on YouTube, we hear things on various other Instagram, Facebook. But he's saying, no, engage yourself in hearing about and speaking about the glories of Sri Krishna. And that will take away everything inauspicious from your life. Now King Parikshit says, my lord, how can persons living in the age of Kali rid themselves of the cumulative contamination of this age? So at the time that they are speaking, the age of Kali has just about started. It's just starting up. And they can foresee that it's starting. I'm going to talk about the different ages in just a bit. So Parikshit is asking a very relevant question. How can persons living in the age of Kali, that is us, he's now looking ahead in time and asking on our behalf, how can persons in the age of Kali rid themselves of the cumulative contamination of this age? Oh, great sage, please explain this to me. Please explain the different ages of universal history, the special qualities of each age, the duration of cosmic maintenance and destruction, and the movement of time, which is the direct representation of the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu. So then Shukadev says, my dear king, in the beginning, during Satya Yuga, the age of truth, okay, so let's put this on the screen for you to look at and get an idea. Right, there are 4 yugas that the Bhagavatam talks about. 4 ages. They divide time into 4 ages. The first of which is called Satya Yuga and lasts 1,728,000 years. The second is called Treta. And this lasts 1,296,000 years. Then there's Dwapar Yuga, which lasts 864,000 years. And when they're speaking, that was Dwapar Yuga. Now we have entered into, then right after this speaking, we enter into Kali Yuga, which is where we are now, which started around anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. And that will last for 432,000 years. Keep this number in mind, because you're going to learn that a lot is about to happen. So Shukdev Goswami says, my dear king, in the beginning, during Satya Yuga, the age of truth, religion is present in with all 4 of its legs or pillars intact. Right? What are these 4 pillars? The first one of them is truthfulness. The second is mercy. Third is austerity. And finally, charity. So these are mentioned as the 4 pillars of Dharma: truthfulness, mercy, austerity, and charity. Now, the qualities mentioned here are universal, non-sectarian aspects of a pious life. So this is not necessarily what's going to take you back to God, but this is what is Dharma. Right? This is this is a non-sectarian understanding of a pious life. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th leg of Dharma is listed as cleanliness. So here it's mentioned as charity. There it's mentioned as, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it was mentioned as cleanliness, this 4th leg of the Dharma. If you'll take a look, once again, not there, here. Yeah. So the 4th leg mentioned now is charity, but in an earlier part of the Bhagavatam, it was mentioned as cleanliness. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is an alternative definition of the word dhanam or charity in the present context. Actually, charity is to award fearlessness and freedom to others. Real charity is to award fearlessness. What is the greatest gift you can give someone? What is the greatest blessing, benediction, gift you can give to another human being? What is the greatest charity you can give someone? Fearlessness and freedom. Now, this doesn't just mean freedom in terms of making your country free. No, freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Freedom from the influence of the modes of nature, from the influence of the world upon you. That kind of freedom. Not some temporary means of pleasure or relief. Right? You give a person food, the next day they're again hungry. You give a person some pleasure, the next day again they're wanting more. Any material charitable arrangement will inevitably be crushed by the onward march of time. Thus, only realization of one's eternal existence as a soul beyond the reach of time, that and only that can make one fearless. Because see, the body will perish. So clearly we have every reason to be fearful because the body is perishable. And if you are identified with your body, then you will live in fear. And because of fear, there will be anxiety. And because of anxiety, then later on, there will be more depression. And we see this epidemic all around us because there's fear. So he's saying the greatest thing you can give someone, the greatest charity you can give someone is fearlessness. And freedom from material desire constitutes real freedom, for it enables one to escape the bondage of the laws of nature. Therefore, real charity is to help people revive their eternal spiritual consciousness. Now he continues, the people of Satya Yuga, that is that original age you heard about earlier, which lasts for 1 million, I'm not sure what the number was, 1,728,000 years. This is Satya Yuga, right? So the people of Satya Yuga are for the most part self-satisfied, merciful, friendly to all, peaceful, sober, tolerant, right? So let's go over that. Self-satisfied, merciful, friendly to all, peaceful, sober, tolerant, and then they experience pleasure from within. So this is a very enlightened society. This is a time when everyone is at a very high spiritual vibration. They see all things equally. This is an important piece of information, that they see all things equally. In Bhagavad Gita, this idea is mentioned. This concept of seeing things with an equal vision or equanimity has been mentioned. In chapter 5, text 18, it says, Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva svapake cha pandita samadarshina. This is the word, samadarshi, someone who sees with equal vision. Here it says, the humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and even a dog eater, dog outcast. That means these are the lowest of people who eat dogs. In chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, text number 32, a similar statement was made. He is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self, meaning the soul, so comparison to his true soul, he sees the true equality of all beings. See, one who has become self-realized, who has experienced their own soul, can see that same spiritual spark in every other being. So he who by comparison of his own true self, his soul, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. And in the 14th chapter, again it is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear. And illumination would be something that is very pleasant and happy and wonderful, and attachment and delusion cause suffering. So when a person is not attached to these, either happiness or distress, does not get upset when the happiness is gone, or the good things are gone, and does not get disturbed when the bad things are happening, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. So we know that it's only nature that's making everything move and work in a certain way, not becoming attached to this outcome or that. Such a person who is situated in the self, see, it cannot happen with the mind. The mind is always going to be perturbed and disturbed because it wants things to be a certain way and doesn't want things to be another way. So the mind is constantly agitated. But it is one who has situated in the self, one who has identified with the soul as being the reality. This is who I am. The spiritual part of me, this is the reality. This is who I am. So such a person who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. Such a powerful statement. Must think about it, because the Bhagavad Gita is full of this, full of the symptoms of a highly advanced being. How do you know you are spiritually advancing? There's a lot of people who say, oh, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you will know you are far from spiritual. You are barely beginning the journey. This is what a spiritual person looks like. This is what a spiritual person does. This is how they think. This is how they feel. They see a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye. They're equal towards the desirable and the undesirable. They are steady in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, treat alike both friend and enemy, and has renounced all material activities. So these are the qualities of an evolved person. Let's not, get fooled into thinking, oh, I'm so spiritual. We're not. Yeah. So this is what the qualities of the persons are in Satya Yuga, that they see all things equally. They experience pleasure from within. They're not looking outside to find pleasure. They find the greatest pleasure lies within themselves. Now that doesn't mean in the body. That means in the soul. They understand they can experience the soul through meditation. And in experiencing it, they experience the greatest pleasure. And now the things of the world, the things that give pleasure to the body or the things that give pleasure to the mind are no longer attractive. So that's what it means that they experience pleasure within. And the next thing is they endeavor diligently for spiritual perfection. So these are the qualities of the people in Satya Yuga. That time has passed a long time ago. Now we come to the next age known as the Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, also lasts about a little over 1,000,000 years. And in that age, each leg of religion, it is said, each pillar of religion is gradually reduced by 1/4 by the influence of the 4 pillars of adharma, of irreligion. And what are the 4 pillars of adharma? They are lying. Right? So truthfulness was the pillar of dharma. Lying would be its opposite. Violence, dissatisfaction, being dissatisfied, not being satisfied with whatever you've got or whatever situation you're in, and quarrel. So you'll see that these now begin to creep in as time passes. In the Treta age, people are devoted to ritual performances and severe austerities. They are not excessively violent or very lusty after sensual pleasure. Their interest lies primarily in the Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. That means to say that they are interested in religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. And they achieve prosperity by following the prescriptions of the 3 Vedas. Although in this age society evolves into the 4 separate classes, Varnashram, that is to say Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. However, in the age of Treta, most people are like Brahmins, priestly, very devoted to study of religion, study of spirituality. Whereas in the previous age, in Satya Yuga, they were almost like rishis, very evolved beings. Now we see people having more material desire, having, performing rituals and austerities and following the codes of dharma, and reading the Vedas with the purpose of developing some material attachments. Then we come to the Dwapar Yuga. This lasts about 800 and some thousand years. And in this we see that Dwapar Yuga, the religious quality of austerity, truth, mercy, and charity are reduced by 1/2 by their irreligious counterparts, dissatisfaction, untruth, violence, and enmity. In the Dwapar age, people are interested in glory and are very noble. They devote themselves to the study of the Vedas, and they possess great opulence. They support large families and enjoy life with vigor. Of the 4 classes, the Kshatriyas and Brahmins are most numerous. So now we see that the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmins, the priestly class, are most numerous in the Dwapar Yuga. This is the time when Krishna comes. He comes towards the end of the Dwapar Yuga. And then finally we come to the age of Kali. And in the age of Kali, Kali Yuga, only 1/4 of dharmic principles remain. So it started with 100% and now we're down to 25%. 1/4 remains of the dharmic principles, of the pillars of religion. And this last remnant will continually be decreasing as time goes by the ever-increasing principles of irreligion, and will finally be destroyed. In the Kali Yuga, people tend to be greedy. We notice that all around us, don't we? People want more and more and more and more. They're ill-behaved. They're not kind, they're not compassionate, they're not loving, they're ill-behaved. They're merciless to each other, to the animals, to people of other countries and other races, merciless. And they fight one another without good reason. Unfortunate and obsessed with material desires. Right? The people of Kali Yuga are almost all Shudras and barbarians. So now we've gone from people being mostly Brahmins or mostly warriors, Kshatriyas. Now they're mostly Shudras, meaning like workers. They don't have the higher qualities of the higher, more evolved races. And so Shudras doesn't mean that's only in India. That is everywhere. Krishna says very clearly that the Varnashram system of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras is based upon guna and karma, is based upon your aptitude and your actions. So everyone has an aptitude and everyone has performed certain actions. So this is there for all time. The Varnashram system is there for all time. There are people who are engaged and desirous of learning more about spirituality. They might be priests, but they also could be seekers. That might be their primary focus in life. And they like to study scriptures of different kinds, or they, whichever religion, it doesn't matter. But if they are trying to really elevate themselves spiritually, then they would be more like Brahminical. And otherwise, others are more interested in power, in ruling and administration, and they're more like Kshatriyas, warriors. And there's also, of course, all the soldiers and warriors as well. And then you have the business people, the Vaishyas, and the entrepreneurs, all of that whole segment of people. And then you have the Shudras, who are the workers. So in the purport, it is explained that in this age, we can already observe that most people are laborers, or fishermen, or artisans, or other kinds of workers within the Shudra category. Independent businessmen and farmers are a vanishing breed as huge business conglomerates increasingly convert them, that is the small business people, into subservient employees. Vast regions of the earth are already populated by barbarians and semi-barbarous people, making the entire situation dangerous and bleak. See, the Vedic standard is very high. This idea, what is a barbarian, might be relative. You might think, oh, you're very educated, you're very, have all kinds of wealth and money and all kinds of stuff, but you could still be a barbarian. It has nothing to do with how much money you have, how much knowledge you have, how much power you have, or how much fame you have. The Vedic standard of what is an evolved human being is very high. And so one has to they're looking at it from that perspective. He continues in the purport saying, the enlightened devotees of God and noble political leaders are extremely scarce. The Krishna consciousness movement is empowered to rectify the current dismal state of affairs. It is the only hope for this ghastly age of Kali Yuga. Then Shukadev continues, the material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? See the three modes, whose permutations are observed within a person's mind, are set into motion by the power of time. So this goodness, passion, and ignorance, these are the three modes of nature, and they have always been there, and they are the basis on which the entire earth, all creation takes place under the influence of the good. And that is also our state of mind, and our consciousness is deeply affected by these goodness, passion, and ignorance. So there are different, we can be at different times of the day in different modes of nature. We can be at times in the mode of ignorance, at times in the mode of passion, at times in the mode of goodness. We are studying spiritual things that might bring us to the mode of goodness. If we are busy with our work, that could be in the mode of passion. In the times when we are tired and, not feeling like doing a whole lot, like on a Sunday afternoon or something, we might be in the mode of ignorance. So, in the purport, it said, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, within each age, the other three ages occasionally manifest as sub-ages. Well, let's take a look first at how this works. So the three modes of nature, you'll see that Satya Yuga is in the mode of goodness. People are in the mode of goodness primarily. In Treta Yuga, they're now entering more into the mode of passion. So you find not so much, but they're getting in that. But in Dwapar Yuga, the mode of passion and ignorance now start to develop. And in Kali Yuga, it's primarily the mode of ignorance. Now, the point being made here is that these are mixed. And you'll find elements of these in all different ages. Therefore, even in Satya Yuga, which is primarily in the mode of goodness, and people are very highly spiritual, you may find an asura, a demonic person might appear or take birth in that time sometimes. And then within the age of Kali, let's take the opposite, which is the most irreligious time, you may find that sometimes there are some very highly evolved beings who come here and take birth and enlighten all the others and help us spiritually evolve. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the three modes of nature are present everywhere and in everything, but the predominant mode or combination of modes determines the general character of any material phenomenon. In each age, therefore, the three modes are present in varying proportions. And so that's what we talked about here. And then you may find that there are sub-elements, portions within Satya Yuga. You may find a bit of ignorance, or within Treta you may find a little bit of ignorance and passions. You know, they get mixed a little bit, but this is the predominant modes of nature. When the mind, intelligence, and senses are solidly fixed in the mode of goodness, that time should be understood as Satya Yuga, the age of truth. People then take pleasure in knowledge and austerity. When the conditioned souls are devoted to their duties and have ulterior motives and seek personal, so this is Satya Yuga, which is the age of truth. Their mind, intelligence, and senses are in the mode of goodness, or sattvagun, sattvic. They take pleasure in knowledge and austerity. Now, when the conditioned souls are devoted to their duties but have ulterior motives, that's when you have the Treta Yuga. And they're seeking personal prestige. You should understand that situation to be the age of Treta, in which the functions of passion are prominent. Then when greed, dissatisfaction, false pride, hypocrisy, and envy become prominent, along with selfish activity, such a time is the age of Dwapar, dominated by the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. As I was saying, that was also the time when Krishna came into this world, because there was so much of this selfish activity that was taking place, so much of greed, so much of dissatisfaction, so much of false pride, that he finally had to vanquish all the people that were causing that. Just as we heard earlier, that in the Kali Yuga, Kalki comes to do that, right? Right. So, and then when there is a predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, sleepiness or laziness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, poverty, that we know to be the age of Kali, the age of the mode of ignorance. The purport is written in Kali Yuga, people are almost exclusively devoted to gross materialism with hardly any affinity for self-realization. Shukadev continues, because of the bad qualities of the age of Kali, human beings will become short-sighted, unfortunate. Short-sighted means, short-sighted is very important to understand. It means not short-sighted like having bad eyesight, which may also be true, but it means short-sighted that they're only interested in immediate instant gratification, instant sense gratification, just wanting quickly to enjoy their senses rather than thinking long-term. What is the goal of life? Why am I here? What is it I need to do? What is the purpose of human life? Very few people ask those questions and very few people think like that. And if you're one of those, then you're one of the exceptions. But by and large, you'll find that that is not the case. Most people don't. So therefore, they are short-sighted, right? And that makes them unfortunate. They also become gluttonous and lustful, poverty-stricken. And women have become very unchaste. Now, in the Vedic time, that was not the case. They were very chastity, or being a fidelity was considered a very important quality for a woman. It says, in this time, the women becoming unchaste will freely wander from one man to the next. This has become normal. And we think that if you say anything against that, then you're the person who is being narrow-minded and being somehow intolerant and limiting and controlling and becoming a patriarchal person. But there's a wisdom behind this, and the purport is explained. In the age of Kali, certain pseudo-intellectuals seeking individual freedom support sexual promiscuity. In fact, identification with the self, or rather of the self, the soul, with the body, and the pursuit of individual freedom in the body rather than in the soul are signs of most dismal ignorance and slavery to lust. So the Vedic culture is about rising beyond the senses and the body, whereas in Kali Yuga, everyone is about becoming a slave to their body, to their desires, to their lust. We work for our desires. We work because of what we want. We're lusting for everything: new products, new house, new car, new partner, new lover. So many things that we are lusting for. And we do this in the pursuit of individual freedom. We think that this is what the goal of life is about. And therefore, men already are unchaste and women also become unchaste. Because, if women are very controlled and will not let men approach them, well, then men have no choice. But that's not the case. You now find men and women, they're working together, and then you have office affairs. You have all kinds of things happen. Even though they might be married back at home, they've got their wife, their kids, or husband, whatever, and there's things that are happening. And it's just become so outrageous that we have 60% or so divorce rates as a result of that. So the purport, he continues, he says, when women are unchaste, many children are born out of wedlock. So we see a lot of single mothers, right? And this is a product of lust. These children grow up in psychologically unfavorable circumstances, and a neurotic, ignorant society arises. So the whole logic is not about trying to control people, but is about recognizing that children need a certain kind of structure to be raised. If you don't have that structure, if family collapses, then at that time you're going to find that the children that are born are going to be very confused and troubled. They're going to have daddy issues. They're going to have mommy issues. They're going to have all kinds of problems when the one person who is not there, so the single mother raising her kid, then there's going to be problems. They don't have a proper role model of a male and how a male is supposed to behave. Neither the boys have it nor the girls have it. So this is chaos that we're seeing arising in society around us. So this ancient wisdom is trying to guide us back to a time that things were more sane. Shukadev continues, cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. All right, we're going to unpack this part. In the purport is written, many large cities are unsafe at night. For example, it's understood that no sane person would walk in New York Central Park at night because he knows he will most certainly be mugged. Apart from ordinary thieves who abound in this age, large cities are filled with cutthroat businessmen who enthusiastically convince people to purchase and consume useless or even harmful products, or sell them on some Ponzi scheme or some such thing. It has been well documented that beef, tobacco, liquor, and many other modern products destroy one's physical health, what to speak of mental health. And yet modern capitalists do not hesitate to use every psychological trick in the book to convince people to consume these things. Modern cities are full of mental and atmospheric pollution, and even ordinary citizens are finding them unbearable. This verse also points out that the teachings of the Vedic scriptures will be distorted in this age. Great universities in today's time, you go to some of the big universities that are around, which even teach courses on Hinduism, in which Indian religion, despite its limitless evidence to the contrary, is described as polytheistic, as in having many gods, and leading to an impersonal salvation. In fact, all Vedic literature is a unified whole, as stated by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya, he says in the 15th chapter, text number 15. By all the Vedas, I, Krishna, am to be known. All the Vedic literature is meant for enlightening us about the supreme, personal, absolute truth, Vishnu or Krishna. Although known by many names and appearing in many forms, God is a single absolute entity, and He is a person. But this true Vedic understanding is hidden in the Kali Yuga. Everyone takes from India the impersonal understanding and then loves to sit with that, much as that is not the essence of the Vedic teaching. In this verse, Shukdev astutely observes that political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. How sadly true this statement is. Right? Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, means sap them dry, take away their money in taxes, in all kinds of taxes. You've got wealth tax, you've got sales tax, you've got property tax, you've got income tax and state tax. And you're working for that. Most of your money goes into that. And then, of course, just they get you at every end, in every way they can. The Bhagavatam then continues, the brahmacharis will fail to execute their vows. Brahmacharis are celibate students. They will fail to execute their vows and become generally unclean. The householders will become beggars, and the vanaprasthas. So these are the different stages of life. Brahmachari is the student life. Grihastha is when you're married. Vanaprastha is when you're starting to get detached from family life and go to holy places. Sannyas is when you finally give up on all material attachments and become renounced. So these are the 4 stages of life that everyone is supposed to go through according to Vedic culture. But here it says the Vanaprasthas will live in the villages. They'll live in their homes instead of going out away from the house and becoming detached from it. And the sannyasis will become greedy for wealth. Sannyasi is supposed to be completely detached from material things. In the purport is written, brahmacharya or celibate student life is practically non-existent in the age of Kali. This is how it was taught. The students went to the Gurukul and they lived as celibate students. But in today's time, in schools like in America, many boys' schools have become co-educational, and because young men frankly refuse to live without the constant companionship of young girls, so they have no choice. The same is happening everywhere across the world. In Vedic culture, at the age of 50, couples retire to sacred places for austere life and spiritual perfection. In countries like America, however, retirement cities have been constructed wherein elderly people waste the last years of their lives playing golf, ping pong, and by engaging in pathetic attempts at love affairs, even while their bodies are horribly rotting and their minds are growing senile. This shameless abuse of the venerable last years of life denotes a stubborn unwillingness to acknowledge the actual purpose of human life, which is to devote oneself to God. See, if you haven't learned this from the beginning, then the problem is you won't learn it at the end either. One has to start practicing spirituality as young as possible. And then as you get older, you realize this is the most important thing. Maybe you have some material attachments, you're working through that. Of course, as such, material attachments can never, never ultimately end. It's not like you can go through and you can have enough money or enough sex or enough pleasure that you will finally no longer want it. No, it's like pouring ghee or butter or oil into fire, right? Or gasoline into fire. The more you put in there, the bigger the fire gets. It doesn't get smaller. So desires are like that. No matter what we desire, you get money, you'll want more, 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 more. It never ends. That realization has to come. You can hear it here. You can hear it now. But those desires will not necessarily leave you. You've got to be able to keep this in mind and then watch what's happening to others, what's happening to yourself. As you're going through the journey of life, you notice this stuff isn't really satisfying me. These desires aren't really ending. Perhaps what they're saying is correct. Perhaps what these ancient people of great wisdom said, hey, this isn't going to work. Put your attention on that which actually satisfies you, and that is God. When you do that, you will find the greatest happiness, the greatest pleasure, the greatest meaning and purpose in life. So in the purport it is said, the words nyasino tyartha lo lupaha indicate that charismatic religious leaders will proclaim themselves as prophets, saints, and incarnations to cheat the innocent public and fatten their bank accounts. We see this all over the world. In India, there's lots of them, and you'll find them everywhere else as well. Then Shukadev Goswami says, women will become much smaller in size, men also, and they will eat too much. They will have more children than they can properly take care of, and they will lose all shyness. They will speak harshly and will exhibit qualities of thievery, deceit, and unrestrained audacity. We see this all around us. In the name of liberation, women's liberation, we see that women have become more and more and more masculinized. They've taken on the worst qualities of men. Those qualities in men need to be tamed. But then if a man tames those qualities and becomes more gentle and becomes more kind and more compassionate, he's thought of as being very feminine. And the women who become more harsh and more arrogant and more controlling, or they are thought of as being very liberated women. But this is upside down. This is backwards. Both men and women need to develop the spiritual qualities of kindness, compassion, qualities which bring about gentleness within themselves. Those are some of the symptoms, and wisdom and knowledge and all of that. Those are the symptoms of spiritual advancement, not this ridiculous idea of women's liberation. For that matter, men's patriarchal behaviors. None of that is condoned by Vedic society. Then Shukadev continues, businessmen will engage in petty commerce and earn their money by cheating. Even when there is no emergency, people will consider any degraded occupation quite acceptable. In the purport is written, although other occupations are available, people do not hesitate to work in coal mines, slaughterhouses, steel mills, deserts, floating oil rigs, and submarines, and other equally abominable situations. As also mentioned here, businessmen will consider cheating and lying to be perfectly respectable ways to do business. These are all symptoms of the age of Kali. Shukadev continues, servants will abandon a master who has lost his wealth, even if that master is a saintly person of exemplary character. Character will not matter. I got to get paid. That's what's important. Masters will abandon an incapacitated servant, even if that servant has been in the family for generations. Cows will be abandoned or killed when they stop giving milk. This last one is so unfortunate. In India, the purport says, in India, the cow is considered sacred not because Indian people are primitive worshippers of mythological totems, but because Hindus intelligently understand that the cow is a mother. As children, nearly all of us were nourished with cow's milk. Therefore, the cow is one of our mothers. Certainly, one's mother is sacred. Therefore, we should not kill the sacred cow. Then Shukadev says, in Kali Yuga, men will be wretched and controlled by women. They will reject their fathers, brothers, other relatives, and friends, and will instead associate with the sisters and brothers of their wives. So in other words, they will be henpecked. They will be controlled by their wives and will then identify with the wife's family, neglecting their own family. Thus, their conception of friendship will be based exclusively on sexual ties. Uncultured men will accept charity on behalf of God and will earn their livelihood by making a show of austerity and wearing a mendicant's dress. So you'll see people wearing these robes of a sadhu or a priest, but they're just, so much of the time, they're just making a show of being some good person, some priestly person in the back who knows what they're doing and sleeping with women or children or whatever else it is, or hoarding money or taking whatever they can from people, sometimes even deceiving them with the prosperity gospel, for example, or other such things, all in the name of religion. And so people get turned off of religion. And then Shukadev says, those who know nothing about religion will mount a high seat and presume to speak on religious principles. And you see them giving big, big sermons. Right? But what is their actual character? How do they live? Do they follow the teachings of their Messiah, their Guru? Most of the time not. It's just flowery words. great oratory. In the purport, it is said, the epidemic of bogus gurus, swamis, priests, and so forth is explicitly described here. In the age of Kali, people's minds will always be agitated. They will become emaciated by famine and taxation and will always be disturbed by fear of drought. We haven't seen as much of that lately, but has been a lot of that over time. They will lack adequate clothing, food, and drink. And much of this is also a prediction of times to come. We were not able to see it now. We seem to think we have plenty, but a lot is going to change. They will lack adequate clothing, food, and drink, and will be unable to properly rest, have sex, or bathe themselves, and will have no ornaments to decorate their bodies. In fact, the people of Kali Yuga will gradually come to appear like ghostly, haunted creatures. And we see that already happening. So many people appear that way because of their use of drugs, because of their mental health, because of their bad habits. They appear to be haunted, and in many cases they are. The purport, it says, the symptoms described here are already prevalent in many countries in the world and will gradually spread to other places engulfed by impiety and materialism. Shukdev continues his predictions. In Kali Yuga, men will develop hatred for each other, even over a few coins. Giving up all friendly relations, they will be ready to lose their own lives and kill even their own relatives. Men will no longer protect their elderly parents, their children, or their respectable wives. Thoroughly degraded, they will care only to satisfy their own bellies and genitals. You see this so much. Women are longing for men who will be protective of them, and so many men are not. Women are longing for someone who will be faithful and loyal and committed, and so many men are not. It's already happened. So that's what it says, that they will care only to satisfy their own bellies and genitals. Purport. In this age, many people are already sending their elderly parents to lonely old age homes, although the elderly parents spent their entire lives serving their children. Young children are also tormented in many ways in this age. Suicide among children has increased dramatically in recent years because they are being born not to loving religious parents but to degraded, selfish men and women. In fact, children are often born because a birth control pill or prophylactic or some other contraceptive device malfunctioned. Under such conditions, it is very difficult nowadays for parents to morally guide their children. Generally, ignorant of spiritual science, parents cannot lead their children on the path of liberation and thus fail to fulfill their primary responsibility in family life. As predicted in this verse, adultery has become common, and people in general are extremely concerned with eating and sex, which they consider far more important than knowing the absolute truth. Shukadev then continues, in the age of Kali, people's intelligence will be diverted by atheism, and they will almost never offer sacrifice to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Spiritual Master of the universe. Although the great personalities who control the three worlds all bow down to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, he's talking about in the heavenly planets and all the great personalities, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Shiva, they all bow down to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. The petty and miserable human beings of this age will not do so. In the purport is written, the impulse to find the absolute truth, the source of all existence, has motivated philosophers, theologians, and other intellectuals of various persuasions since time immemorial, and continues to do so today. However, soberly analyzing the ever-increasing plurality of so-called philosophies, religions, paths, and ways of life, and so on, we find that in almost all cases, the ultimate objective is something impersonal or formless. That's how most people seem to, because the desire, the seeking for the absolute truth is there in so many people. There are many who are moving away from trying to inquire. But still there are many seekers. And yet they are being led toward the idea that God is something impersonal or formless. In Kali Yuga, many leading thinkers deny that the absolute truth, the source of our personal consciousness, has consciousness and personality. So how can it be that that which is the source of us cannot have that which we have? How is it that that which is from which we come cannot have the qualities we have? It's ridiculous. In Kali Yuga, many people present cheap, stereotyped arguments such as if God had a body or personality, he would be limited. In this inadequate attempt at logic, a qualified term is falsely presented as universal sense. What really should be said is, if God had a material body or a material personality like those that we have, he would be limited, true. But we leave out the qualifying adjective material and make a pseudo-universal assertion as if we understood the full range within total reality of bodies and personality. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and other Vedic literatures teach that that God has a transcendental form and a transcendental person. That means it transcends the nature of this world. It is not material. It is spiritual completely. His form is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. It is not made of blood and bones and all of this that our bodies are made of. Yet he has a form. And therefore man is made in the image of God. This has been said. And his qualities are unlimited. He has got infinite beauty, infinite wealth, infinite intelligence, infinite humor, infinite kindness, infinite anger, and so on. Infinite is an absolute. And if anything we observe in this world is not contained somehow or other within our conception of the absolute, then that conception is of something limited and not of the absolute at all. Only in Kali Yuga are there philosophers foolish enough to proudly define the most absolute of all terms, God, in materialistic relative ways and then declare themselves enlightened thinkers. No matter how big our brain may be, we should have the common sense to place it at the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that was a wonderful purport. Now Shukdev continues, terrified, about to die, a man collapses on his bed. Although his voice is faltering, he is hardly conscious of what he is saying. If he utters the holy name of the Supreme Lord, he can be freed from the reaction of his karma and achieve the supreme destination. But still people in the age of Kali will not worship the Supreme Lord. In the Kali Yuga, objects, places, and even individual personalities are all polluted. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, however, can remove all such contamination from the life of one who fixes the Supreme Lord within his mind. If a person hears about, glorifies, meditates upon, worships, or simply offers great respect to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who is situated within the heart, he, Krishna, will remove from that person's mind the contamination accumulated during many thousands of lifetimes. Contamination meaning the impressions, the sanskar within our subconscious mind will be cleansed and removed from our mind. That is called anartha nivriti. Just as fire applied to gold removes any discoloration caused by traces of other metals, Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, within the heart purifies the minds of the yogis. By one's engaging in the process of demigod worship, austerities, breath control, compassion, bathing in holy places, strict vows, charity, and chanting of various mantras, one's mind cannot attain the same absolute level of purification as that achieved when the unlimited personality of Godhead Sri Krishna appears within the heart. So you see, when we are chanting his name purely, Krishna actually appears within our vision, within our heart. We're able to see him. But one must learn how to chant with a pure heart. One must learn how to chant without offenses. Shukadev then says, endeavor with all your might to fix the Supreme Lord, Keshava, Krishna, within your heart. Maintain this concentration upon him, and at the time of death you will certainly attain the supreme destination. You see, this relevance of all this right now, what he's saying is because Parikshit is about to give up this world. And so he's receiving his final instructions from his guru, his spiritual master, Shukdev Goswami. And that's the significance of what is now being said. Shukadev continues, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the ultimate controller. He is Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the ultimate supreme controller, Param Ishwar. He is the supreme soul and the supreme shelter of all beings. When meditated upon by those who are about to die, he reveals to them his own eternal, their own eternal spiritual identity. And then he comes up with this most incredible of all verses. He says, my dear king, well, let's read it in Sanskrit first. Kalar doshe nidhe rajan asti hi ekho mahan guna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. So this means, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the name of Krishna, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the spiritual world, to the transcendental kingdom. Although, let's read it again, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Asti ekho mahan guna, a great good quality. Simply by chanting the name of Krishna, simply by chanting the name of Krishna, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the spiritual kingdom. You'll see this stated over here. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Just by doing kirtan of Krishna, mukta sangha param brajet, that you will get mukti, right? And go to the supreme param brajet. You will go to that highest destination, the spiritual world, and be with Krishna. Kalar dose nidhe rajan asti ekho. There is one great benefit in this age. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. That just by chanting the names of Krishna, one can become free from material bondage and attain the spiritual, be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. After mentioning the innumerable faults of this age of Kali, Shukdev Goswami now mentions its one brilliant aspect. He gives the solution. He gives the easiest method that there is available in all of the ages we get in Kali Yuga, the simplest, most powerful process for attaining liberation and attaining love of God. So, just as one powerful king can kill innumerable thieves, one brilliant spiritual quality can destroy all the contamination of this age. It is impossible to overestimate the importance of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, especially in this fallen age. So it is this mantra that is recommended for everyone in this age and is presented as the simplest, easiest, most powerful method for spiritual advancement. And he says, whatever result, let's listen to this beautiful rendition of this mantra. I think I have it here. It would be wonderful to play it for you. Let's give it a moment. All right, just a little taste of that. So he says, whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, and in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, and in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, with that, we come to the end of this chapter of the Bhagavatam, the 12th canto, chapter number 3. It's been a powerful journey coming to this point. We've gone through the entire Bhagavatam. We're down to the last few chapters of the 12th canto now. And the most powerful message was in today's 3rd chapter of the 12th canto. I hope you take it to heart. I hope you begin chanting. Or if you are chanting, I hope you become more diligent in your chanting and become more focused on it, because it will provide you the greatest gifts of spiritual advancement. It will give to you the most powerful blessings of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Thank you so much for being here. Hare Krishna. Please accept my regard for you for being here and for your listening so patiently. Hare Krishna.